Good evening, everyone. My name is Vince Ruck, and I am joined today by my colleague, Patrick Fingler. We're very happy to have you with us today. We want to thank Gistec for putting on this series of webinars. We hope that everyone is keeping safe in this time, and we would like to wish you Ramadan Mubarak as we begin the presentation. So today we're going to be showing you how two of our products, Geocortex Web and Geocortex Mobile, can help you to achieve next generation user experiences with your Esri GIS. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about Geocortex technology and those of us who produce it. We're part of a company that was established in 1999. And we're headquartered in Victoria, Canada, which, as you can see, is on the west coast of North America, on the southern end of Vancouver Island. I hope someday you have a chance to visit. It's a beautiful place. We have over 1,600 customers worldwide. And through Gistec, we offer off-the-shelf web GIS software, including training, professional services, and professional technical support. We are an Esri Platinum Partner, and we've won an award at the Esri Partner Conference for our support of the Esri identity model. And you can see some of the other certifications that we have below. So some of you may have known us for years as a company called Latitude Geographics, but you're not going to see any mention of that in these slides. We're now part of a bigger company called Vertigis that includes some of the companies that you see below, and you may be familiar with some of these companies. This is a great message because together with these companies, we can create even more value for you as the customer with the Esri stack. All of these companies are Esri partners, and in fact, 4 of them are Esri Platinum partners. So that's a very special arrangement that we have with Esri, and that benefits you as the customer. All right, so let's talk about tonight's theme. What does having a next generation user experience mean? What do you expect from these type of words? Well, I want you to think for a moment about how you feel when a software application or a piece of technology really works. Maybe you have a friend who shows you a new app on their phone, and your first reaction is, wow, that's really well designed and that's really intuitive. Then your friend shows you what it does, and you realize that the application can save you a lot of time. Maybe it does something very quickly that usually takes a while. And being an app, you just expect it to work on your phone, right? You just download it from the store and boom, it works. Maybe you can go into the configuration settings and change the color to the color that you prefer, or a few other things to suit your taste. But you don't have to do what we all used to have to do, which is to go into the operating system to make it work. So these characteristics and your reaction to them make up a next generation user experience. And if you are in a position in your company where you are providing experiences to your end users, you want them to have that same experience. If that's what you want, we can help. So our workflow technology puts entire applications into one easy to use widget that matches what your users need to do, so they save time doing their jobs. We also keep up with changes in the Esri technology and the underlying Esri JavaScript API so that you don't have to modify those when you're working with our applications. So we're future-proofing you. We keep you release ready. And we also provide rich capabilities that enable your users to quickly analyze, report, and print what they need in an efficient manner. So that is a next generation user experience, and this is what we provide. And in fact, we provide this to customers worldwide. We provide tools and capabilities that improve the user experiences to our over 1,600 customers. We focus on building these tools so that they're relevant for customers in any industry. The verticals that you see here are just a sample. These tools can be used to build powerful vertical solutions, and we have many customers who have shared their stories of success. Today, we'll share how you can begin to build a next generation GIS solution using Geocortex technology. So Until several years ago, we really built our next generation tools and capabilities into our Geocortex Essentials product, which many of you may be familiar with. Today, we've evolved that offer to make these assets available to customers who may build their applications or host their applications using Esri viewers. We're also evolving our own viewers, Geocortex Web and Geocortex Mobile, which we'll be presenting today. Just to look at some of the capabilities and tools that we've always had in our Geocortex Essentials product. So you can see things like workflow, reporting, security, management. So what we've done is taken some of the key values and key capabilities from our Geocortex Essentials product and made them available as standalone products that are available to use in the Esri viewers, as well as our future viewers. Not only have we taken these capabilities, but some of the things that have always made our software and our product attractive to end users are also built into these next generation products. So things like the management experience, making it easy to manage the assets that you create. Another one is accessibility, making sure that anyone who uses the product is able to use it. And we actually meet compliance standards when it comes to accessibility. APIs, so if you really want to go even deeper in building these products, you can use our APIs to enable you to do that. That is next generation software. Did you know, looking down at the bottom of this chart, that if you have spent time and money to build custom widgets in Web App Builder using Esri technology alone, you're not going to be able to use those widgets in Experience Builder. You're going to have to do a complete redesign of those widgets. It's another example of how, if on the other hand, you're using Geocortex technology, we future-proof you. So when you design applications using our latest products, you're actually building on the 4.x JavaScript API, which means your assets will work in Experience Builder. And even better, they're going to work in our Geocortex Web and Geocortex Mobile viewers, as well as our traditional Essentials viewer. So what this means is you can design something once and use it across multiple platforms, using it in a mobile environment, in a desktop environment. And if you need to publish public services using Web App Builder, but have an internal service using Geocortex Essentials or Geocortex Web, you can have all that same functionality available to you after just building once. Let's talk a little bit about how we connect Geocortex with ArcGIS. As I said, we're an Esri Platinum partner, and everything we do is based on Esri technology and integrates with Esri technology. So first of all, you probably have a creator type user who is logging into ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Portal, and that person is creating web apps and web scenes. They may then be building applications in Web App Builder, and they're pulling these web maps and web scenes into Web App Builder to enable those applications. They then store those applications back into ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Portal. That enables those applications to be used by anyone within their organization, and they probably have a number of people that are already using those applications. We have built Geocortex Web and Geocortex Mobile so that those same creators can build applications using these two viewers, and then also store these applications back into ArcGIS Online and Portal. And that enables even more users to use the Esri ArcGIS, because perhaps you have people that only need to use mobile applications, field workers, for example, that wouldn't have used the Web App Builder application in the field. Additionally, as I've mentioned, we have these Geocortex capabilities like printing, workflow, and reporting. So these same creators are able to author print templates, author reports, and create workflows. And then they store these as Geocortex items in their ArcGIS organization. They then use those items in Web App Builder or in any Geocortex product. And what that does is further extend the usefulness of the Esri GIS for additional users in the organization. So if you are an administrator or someone in charge of GIS in your organization, you probably want to maximize the utilization of GIS to make everyone's life easier. And we do that. All right, so now let's start diving in and looking at our next generation web viewer, which we call Geocortex Web. Let's just kind of get into some of the key values that Geocortex Web offers you. First of all, it really lets you build beautiful applications that look just as good as something that you would have paid someone to develop. There's a number of features that make these applications not only beautiful, but very powerful. And it's fast because it's built on Esri's 4.x JavaScript API. So your applications load and run quickly. You can even embed your applications in other web pages. That's part of how flexible it is. And as you'll see in a few minutes, you can actually build multiple applications from the same template. We have 2D and 3D support because we're building on the 4.x API. So you can quickly toggle between Esri 2D web maps and 3D web scenes. You can even view them side by side. And we have a very intuitive web-based designer. So you don't need to install anything on the client. You're actually using a modern next generation web-based designer, and you're building these beautiful applications right from your browser. It includes an interactive preview. So while you're building it, you're seeing exactly what it's going to look like for your end users. That really expedites the process of design. And as I mentioned before, we have accessibility compliance. So we meet a number of European and other international standards for making our applications available to a number of different types of users. Let's look a little bit more at some of the layouts that are possible with Geocortex Web. Here is a dark themed layout where we've actually put the table view above some of the map views. And you can see in this view that we have both a 2D and a 3D scene right next to each other, and we've put the information panel in the left. Another view is what looks a little more traditional if you've been using our Geocortex Essentials product, where we have the information panel in the left and the I want to menu in the upper left as well. Here's a very simplified view. So if you want to present your users with something really simple so they're not distracted, you can do that as well. And this is what I like to call the falling out of an airplane headfirst theme. Actually, this is a subsurface view of utility pipes. So I want to point out here that you can see the I want to menu is at the bottom. It's another example of just how flexible the product is. And these are not the limit on the number of configurations that we can do with Geocortex Web. It's really up to you to design it as exactly as you see fit. Okay, this is another example of a view where we have a satellite panel on the left, and then we have a view of the infrastructure asset in France from the 4 different cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. So that's really powerful in seeing all the angles. Finally, this is a view of Geocortex Web in a mobile device. So if you're online and you want to have the view available to people in a mobile device, it still looks really beautiful and really simple. Okay, with that, let's have Patrick really show you how this works. I'll pass it over to Patrick.
Thanks, Vince. All right, so hopefully everyone can see my screen. And what we're currently viewing right here is our apps.geocortex.com homepage. And as Vince mentioned, you can install all of our new technology on your own web servers, or you can access them within our SaaS environment without having to install any software. This works for workflow, reporting, and Geocortex Web and Mobile, which I'll be showing. So this is Geocortex Web, and this is essentially the interface that's very similar to Geocortex Essentials Manager that a GIS administrator would use to develop their underlying applications. Here you can see we've got a variety of different templates that you can use, which resemble the different layouts that Vince was showing. And you can even start from a blank layout and start constructing your own user experience from scratch. I'm going to select this WebGIS default, and you'll notice here in the bottom left, I'm actually logged into this web-based designer in this scenario with my ArcGIS Enterprise identity, but I could also be using my ArcGIS Online identity. And here you're going to see this layout resembles the underlying kind of typical Geocortex Viewer for HTML5 application, but we'll get in and walk through how you can modify these templates as well. So immediately you can see, because we're using the 4.x JavaScript API, I can do things like rotating the map. I can actually toggle between 2D and 3D. So I can view my 2D assets as well as my 3D infrastructure. So here you can see we've got some fire hydrants that are loading on the map. We've got some subsurface water mains, and we've got some 3D buildings that are being displayed on the map. So here you can see they're just starting to load up here, and the end user can either, you could implement this 2D or 3D toggle, or you could also view them side by side in any of the given templates that Vince showed. And here you can see I can rotate the map, I can identify these features, I can toggle back but from 3D to 2D, and we'll still maintain our compass orientation. So these are some of the new ways that you can pull in different types of data sets into Geocortex Web. And how you pull your data into Geocortex Web is by referencing a web map or a web scene within your ArcGIS Online or portal. So here on the right, this is kind of the configuration panel that you'd use. And we've built an actual live preview so you can actually start referencing and making changes and seeing that live. So when I select the map tab, you can see here it's asking me what web map do I want to reference. If I click select here, it'll allow me to choose any number of different web maps. So maybe I want to change it to this particular web map here, and that'll change the underlying base map and information that we're viewing. So that's a new pattern that we've implemented to make our technology a lot more integrated with the ArcGIS platform. And the same goes with the web scene. Now, if I wanted to make any modifications to this application, maybe I want to change the I want to menu or the branding of my application. There's a different number of ways that you can search for these components. I can use this toggleable section, and here I can toggle and highlight the underlying section that I want to edit. So if I select the I want to menu here, I can add some new options to it. I can actually change where I want the I want to menu to appear. Maybe I want to put it in the bottom right. Here you can see now it's in the bottom right. I'm not having to do apply changes or save sites. Maybe I want to put it in the context menu so that when an end user right clicks, they then have this I want to menu option. So that's a really neat example of some of the ways that you can start modifying your templates to put your I want to menu options in different locations. I mentioned you can also update the branding and color of your application. So here there's this branding tab, and I can change the accent color. Maybe I want it to be red, and that'll update all of my icons and the theme of my application. We also support light and dark themes, and the user also has the ability to modify and change these on the fly as well. In terms of adding your own components to your application, here you can see I've got a results table here that's on the bottom. So let's identify some features on the map. We can see that they're being returned in our results listing here. And if I switch this to our results table view, you'll see that similar experience that you're used to working with. But maybe you want to have this on top. You don't want it on the bottom. So here I can see all of the components that are contained within my map, and I can actually move my results over top of my map. And then here you can see now, just with that little switch, I've got my map view on the bottom, and I've got my results table on the top. I'm going to switch that back for now. And you can see I'm not, again, having to do apply changes and save my sites. Let's add some new components to this application. So I'm going to select this option to add a component to my application. Here you can see these are all of the mapping components that you can add. So maybe I want to add a zoom factor to my map. So let's add a zoom into my map control. And let's put it in the top left. So now I've got a nice zoom control that allows the end user to zoom in and out of my applications. We can also add other components like charts as well. So here I can add a chart into my mapping section. Again, I'll just drag it into my map. I think by default it's in the top right, which you can see there. And then we can start connecting this to some data. So maybe I want to symbolize it as a pie chart. Let's define the source. So let's select some fire hydrants. And let's say that we're going to symbolize the flow rate by the count. So again, using this quick little interface, I haven't even saved my application. I can identify some assets, select some fire hydrants, and then here you can see we've got the flow rate for each associated fire hydrant that I've selected being displayed on the map. And again, you could move this chart to the bottom left corner. You could have it pop up with a little embedded panel inside of it, all designed within this intuitive interface. And I can remove that if I wanted to as well. We also support dev, test, and production scenarios. We recognize as you're building these web-based applications, you need an intuitive way to rapidly push your changes from dev to testing to production. So here I'm going to, again, use my little toggleable section here, select my home panel. And for example, let's say I've just got some an application, and I want to rewrite anytime I'm referencing the word dev, I want to change that to production when migrating my application. So here, when we go into the deploy tab, I need to first save this as an application. So we'll call this gistec webinar. And this application is now getting stored as an item inside of my ArcGIS Online organization. And you can see that when I now navigate to info, well, in this scenario, I'm using ArcGIS Enterprise, it now lives as an item, and I can then share that with different users within my organization. If I go to the deploy tab here, you can see I can define my deployment strategy. Maybe I need to go from dev to prod, dev to test to prod, or dev to test to staging to prod. In this scenario, I'm just going to use dev to prod, and you can set up these environmental values, which at runtime or when you're pushing an update from dev to prod, it will replace these values. So I'll say anytime I'm in development and I have the word dev, I'm going to change that to prod. And in this scenario, it might be like a development or a testing web service or something like that, or a workflow. So I've now saved that. Let's push this to production. You can see we've got a summary showing all of my changes and where this is going to get changed. And then I can click OK. And then if I was to view this in production, so let's launch our application. I haven't shared this, so it's going to ask me to log in, or here it's actually single signing me on. And you can see here it's saying production, capital city, whereas over here it's saying development. Now that's a very simple example, but it shows some of the really powerful ways that we can enable you to push updates from dev to test to staging to production. We've also really tightly integrated Geocortex Web with our workflow technology. So here again, I could use my components here to select the map. And here you can see these are all the layers within my map, and I can define which layers are identifiable and so on. Let's select this fire hydrants layer, and I can run specific workflows as feature actions. So here, when I select this fire hydrant on the map, you can see these are all actions. Some of these are default actions, but you can define workflows that run based off a feature. So let's add a new menu action here. And I can also create new reports as well. And so these are tying into all the workflows that I've created, all of the reports that I've created, but you can also create a workflow or a report from these templates that we provide you with. So let's create an editing workflow and click create. And what this is going to do, it's going to read the schema of this layer and then build a workflow in our Geocortex workflow technology that allows you to edit the data. So this is our new workflow technology. Here we've got a display form, and inside of this form, we've got all of these attributes that then in Geocortex Web, when I select a new hydrant asset, I've got this edit hydrants workflow, and it's pulling all of my attributes automatically. I can make some edits to it, and then I can further, make changes to this workflow and modify the user experience for my end users. Workflows are really powerful in Geocortex Web. I'm going to switch over to this example here that we built for the San Francisco International Airport. And they required a way to build, to change floor levels in their application. So they have data, and it's defined by all of their assets live on different floors throughout the airport. So they needed a way to filter this data. So here we've built a workflow inside of Web that allows the end user to then toggle all of the assets depending on the floor level that they belong to. One other requirement though is they actually also required a way for users to search for assets. So here I'm just going to search for a random listing of assets. It's going to pull in a variety of different data sets. And they needed a way for a user to click on an asset and then dynamically change the floor to that floor level that that asset belongs to. So here, when I click on 0, we're now viewing floor level 0. When I click on 3, we're now viewing floor level 3. And how you can accomplish this in Web is by tying workflows into specific events within the Geocortex Web framework. So here you can see there's these events built into our results list. So every time a result is clicked, a number of actions are going to get fired. Every time a result is shown, a number of actions are going to be performed. Here, these are some default commands that we use, but you can actually convert these to workflow and then completely control that whole event inside of a Geocortex workflow to, again, provide a very intuitive, seamless experience for your end users. So customers are going to be creating all sorts of different applications using Geocortex Web that just weren't possible before using this new modern pattern. I'm just going to move this over because there's just one last example that I wanted to show. So we've also implemented this integration with Factl, which is a news source provider. And in this scenario, what we're viewing is all of the COVID news articles that have been published and verified by Factl over the last 2 weeks. And again, we've built a similar filter workflow that allows an end user to filter these assets by date, by region, by severity, or by keyword. So when I filter this by the last day, we can then see we're showing 457 features that have been selected. This could be a chart. In this scenario, this is a new KPI indicator chart that is included with Geocortex Web. I can adjust this to hours, and because we're using workflow, we're also dynamically updating the date here. And again, now you can see all of these are news articles that have been published by Factl within the last hour. So here you can see there's a variety of different articles here. Some are related to COVID response. Some are related to other different outbreaks throughout the world. So that's a really neat example that I wanted to show. And here you can see we've actually got the legend being displayed here on the right rather than, in the typical kind of left panel here. Again, one of the beautiful things about creating these intuitive experiences inside of Geocortex Web. There's a ton of other capabilities that are built in that I don't have time to show you today, but hopefully that gives you a sneak peek into the rapid amount of capabilities that you can leverage. And again, we're continuing to design and develop new capabilities into this. We've got online documentation, and you can see we're coming out with new releases around every 2 to 3 months in rapid succession. So I'm going to pass things over now to Vince to talk a little bit about mobile.
Okay, so now let's start to look at Geocortex Mobile, which we feel is really the most capable framework for building mobile applications on the ArcGIS platform. Let's just talk first again about some of the key values that Geocortex Mobile provides you with. So first of all, Geocortex Mobile is built primarily to allow you to take your data offline, and it allows you to do that seamlessly, whether you're connected or disconnected by taking map areas on and offline. Also, you're not just restricted to a single way to view and edit that data. You can build Geocortex workflows into Geocortex Mobile to actually speed up your end user's process. And you can also, similarly to Geocortex Web, modify the application to suit the needs of your end users in terms of the look and feel. You do all of this without coding. So it's a huge savings for your organization. And really, Geocortex Mobile is ubiquitous. It works with all the standard application platforms. It's available via all of the major application stores. So you can use our Geocortex Go application, which you can download right now if you like, on any platform to host your applications, or you can publish these applications singularly yourself so that your end users see an app on their phone just as they would with any other application. Similarly to what you just saw with Geocortex Web, you're really able to build custom mobile applications using a web interface. So that again is a next generation interface that enables you to create these cutting edge applications, and you can customize them in the manner that you want. You're always in sync because by defining these work areas and even allowing your end users to create those work areas, they take the data offline that they need to. As soon as they're back online, it's going to synchronize that data. So this is really designed for field workers, and it's perfect for them. We're building all of this using the latest version of Esri's ArcGIS Runtime. Once again, we handle all the changes that Esri's making to its runtime environments, to its underlying technology, so that you don't have to. So we're future-proofing the applications that you build when you're using Geocortex Mobile. Once again, as Patrick showed you, we build workflows into not only Geocortex Web, but we're going to show you how we build them into Geocortex Mobile. And these workflows are incredibly powerful. It's really difficult to sum up just how powerful Geocortex workflows are. You have to see them in action. Perhaps you may have had some experience building them, but we really think of this as putting an application into a single widget. You're automating your own business or organizational processes to make it very simple for your end users to get done what they need to get done. And that is available offline in Geocortex Mobile. Geocortex Go, which I've encouraged you to download, looks like this. So you have all of your applications shown via logging into your ArcGIS online or portal experience. You can have them separated into groups. Here we've got a view with development and production apps. And this makes it really simple for you to group the applications that are necessary for your end users. So with that, once again, going to pass it back to Patrick to show you the incredible power of Geocortex Mobile.
All right, so what we're seeing here is the Geocortex Mobile Designer. As you mentioned, it's very similar to the web-based designer that I just showed with Geocortex Web. We've got a couple of different templates that you can use to get started. You're logging in with your ArcGIS Enterprise or your ArcGIS Online credentials, and here I'm going to select an app that I've created for this demo. So what we'll see here is it looks very similar to the interface within the Geocortex Web Designer. You're still connecting to your web maps. Unfortunately, you can't add web scenes into Geocortex Mobile, but here you can see these are all of our components on the right. Now, it doesn't yet have a live preview, but you can, again, create your own layouts for both your landscape or tablet or desktop users, as well as different layouts depending on if they're using a portrait device, which I'll also hopefully be able to show later today. You can see here we've got our map tab here on the top. And again, this is where you pull in your data that you want your end users to visualize on their mobile device and also take offline. So you'll want to make sure that you add your data to a web map and ensure that it's enabled for offline use. And again, here I can select a different web map. I can search for web maps that have been shared with me or public web maps. And again, it's the same process for adding workflows to the application. So I can add some workflows to my I want to menu. Again, these would be different commands that you can connect to, specific workflows that you've created. And then we also have those built-in workflow templates that you can add to help you get started with the tools. Once you're happy and you've built a Geocortex mobile app, you can then save it. That then gets stored again as an item in your portal. And then you can deploy that in two different methods. You can use Geocortex Go, or if you're using our SaaS environment or Windows Server 2019, you can build a native app with your own icon and branding that you host yourselves and deploy to your end users yourselves. I'm going to use Geocortex Go, which you can find on the Microsoft Store, on the Google Play Store, or the Apple iOS Store. I've already got it installed, and I've logged into it with my ArcGIS Enterprise identity, but you can again log into it with your ArcGIS Online identity. And there's also a sample app there that you can play around with just to get started. So here, this is the application that I showed you in that web-based designer. You can see these are the associated layers that I've added. So I've got some work orders, some service requests that are on the map, some fire hydrants, some trees, water mains, buildings, and parcels. And again, we've got an intuitive interface. So your field workers who aren't GIS experts, they can easily toggle on and off these layers. You can also search for layers as well. And you can also select a feature on the map, just by clicking on it, and then retrieve the associated attributes and results for that. Again, here you can see we've got a variety of different workflows and feature actions that you can run. And we've got this map areas tab for actually taking your data offline. So you can provision a variety of administrator defined offline map areas, like the top 10 map areas that your field workers might need to go to in the ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise web map, or a field worker can also just create their own area. So maybe they're going to this location, we can call this gistec map area, specify the level of detail that they need, and you can also sideload tile packages and base map information onto this as well to reduce the size of the map area during the downloading process. So here I could select my Victoria tile package, create that, and then I'll use a different base map that I've already loaded on my device for activating that. So here I've already done that, so I'm going to activate this map area. You can see that it's actually only 1.9 megabytes despite having this massive base map area. And that's because we're simply only downloading the features that are within this extent. Again, now that I'm offline, I can again continue to select my assets. I could add new features if I wanted to. So I could select a layer of interest and add a new feature for it. And let's just go ahead and do a quick little out of the box edit. So I'm just going to edit this hydrant here. I could change the location of it if I wanted to on the map, but let's just adjust the flow rate to 200 and click save. And immediately you can see now that I'm offline, I've got one offline edit that I can then synchronize and push when I have internet connectivity and I'm back in the office. So that was a really simple process. But again, Geocortex Mobile comes bundled with our workflow technology. So you can provide more intuitive and guided user interactions for your end users. So here I've got a workflow that allows me to issue a service request from the I want to menu. I'm launching this workflow. It allows me to select a layer of interest that I want to tie the service request to. So let's select the location on the map, like over here, and find assets that are around it. So here, let's just zoom in a little bit. I can see the underlying assets, and I can also display the distance that I am to that
Patrick,
asset.
your screen seems to be stuck at this point. We're still seeing the design screen.
Oh, okay. Let me maybe stop sharing and share again.
Yeah, let's try that.
All right. Screen 2. There we go.
Okay, yeah, we can see the map now.
Perfect. Okay. I think I just selected my browser for screen sharing instead of the underlying application. So here you can see I'm in the Geocortex Mobile or Geocortex Go app that we launched. I mentioned it's available from the Microsoft Store. You can log into it with your ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise identity. And here you can see that these are the underlying layers that you can toggle on and off. Again, you can click on a feature and retrieve the underlying attributes for it. You can use our geolocation tools to retrieve your geolocation. And here I've actually used our map areas to take an actual area offline. And here I'm using a tile package to display the underlying base map information. Here you can see it's only 1.92 megabytes because I'm actually only taking the features offline because the data is already on my device. We've already done one offline edit, and here I am just running through the process of running a workflow. So let me just rerun that so you can see. I'm navigating to my I want to menu. I've got the ability to connect workflows to this so I can issue a service request. And I could use my geolocation, but there are no assets around me right now. So let's select the location on the map, search for assets around me. And here you can see now with workflow, I can actually identify the distance that I am to each of these assets. So I'm probably interested in inspecting this asset and issuing a service request on that. So the workflow is automatically getting my username, my email, the current date and time, and it's also identifying the asset that I've got selected and showing me the service request templates associated for that. I can say that this is high priority. We can say that the hydrant is leaking, and we could upload a photo from my file picker or launch my on-device camera. I'm going to use my file picker to upload a photo. Say that it's leaky, and then I can create that service request, and here you can see it's now been created. So using workflow here, you can see we've just created a workflow, or sorry, a feature, and I've also successfully uploaded my attachment, and we've got some offline edits that I can then synchronize when I'm back online. You can also run workflows though from the features themselves. So here I can run a workflow from any asset to issue a service request. And I can also run a workflow from my service request to create a work order or investigate it. And there's different ways that you can do this. You can run through this process. Here I'm going to view just the read-only data for the service request. I can view the associated attachment, then I can determine if I want to close this or create a work order. So let's create a work order at this location and assign it to myself. I can see all of the work orders that I've been assigned. I can see other work orders that my colleagues have been assigned as well. And I can adjust the priority and add some comments if I wanted to. And let's create a work order. So here again, using the workflow process, we're really guiding the end user through the process of creating work orders, then also closing that service request. So here I've actually deleted that service request, so there's no service request on the map. This is a very common scenario if you're working with any type of assets or asset management system application. But you can also integrate with other Esri applications as well. So here there's a service request over here. Rather than using a workflow, which is a very intuitive process because it keeps your end user inside of the underlying application and doesn't require them to hop to another application to do something. But maybe you have built a variety of surveys in Survey 123, and you want to integrate mobile with Survey 123. Well, you can. So here I've got a feature action that will launch Survey 123 on my device. Here we can see it's, I think, just loading up. And it'll pass information such as the service request template, the submitted username. And here you can see it's loading the survey. I can say that my colleague Paul is inspecting it. It's passing information such as the work order template associated with it, the comments. We can confirm that, send it now. And then here, when we refresh the map, it'll actually show the work order on the map. So let's just zoom in a little bit here. And you can see that, we'll just give this a second here. There should be a work order that gets added onto the map. Seems like it's taken a little bit of time to submit. So that's a way that you can integrate with Survey 123. Additionally, what you can do is you can integrate with other third-party assets as well. So here I can select a fire hydrant on the map, and I can route to this feature using a variety of different methods. So here I can run a workflow that asks me my preferred navigation app. Do I want to use Google Maps, or maybe I want to use a native application like Bing or Apple Maps? So let's click Submit here. And this is going to launch a native application on my device and route me to that asset. If I selected a different asset, like this work order over here and route to that feature, you can see again, it's updating my native app and it's cross-app communication. This could be Navigator for ArcGIS, Google Maps, Waze, or some other third-party application that you want to connect and integrate mobile with. Once we submitted that survey, it also in the back end actually sent me an email. So here I can open up my email and you can see at 10:51, which is our time, I just received this email and it showed me the work order that we just performed. So we assigned it to Paul Van Haren. The comments were that the tree needs to be cut. And I could, as a field worker, scan this QR code and it would open up the asset inside of Geocortex Go. Let me see if I can just whip that up before we dive in for some questions. So I'm gonna see if I can just share my screen from my phone onto the device. Let me just drag this over. So this is the phone that I'm currently using right now. And I'm gonna use my QR code here, reader, to scan this. And this should open up Geocortex Go, authenticate me with the underlying application, load it, and then select the underlying asset on the map of interest. So here you can see now it's selected that work order that we submitted from survey 123. And then I'm now in Geocortex Mobile and I can start completing that work order. I can, again, navigate to my geolocation. I can rotate the device and do a variety of other operations as well, offline or online. So I just wanted to show just the process of using a native application on your phone. And again, here I can also select any kind of asset on the map. And let's run our route to feature workflow. Let's use Google Maps in this scenario and click submit. This is going to launch Google Maps on my device and route me to that location. But again, this could be Navigator, Waze, or some other navigation software. Let's just stop sharing and continue on. You can also configure workflows as well to create your own offline areas. And here I've also enabled a workflow that does some auto syncing as well. So when I toggle this on and click OK, it's actually going to synchronize my map areas every 2 minutes while I have internet connectivity, so I don't have to worry about pushing these changes. So again, there's a lot of capabilities here that are built into mobile, and you can even extend it further using the Geocortex workflow technologies. And it's using cutting edge technology built on the ArcGIS Runtime SDK. And we think our customers are gonna get a lot of value out of really designing their own layouts for offline use and just using it for their field workers and making it easier for their field workers to collect and edit offline data, all inside of a single application. So let's dive into just the last few slides here. So hopefully that was a valuable demo. Thanks for letting me know that I wasn't sharing my screen. Apologies for that. But hopefully we're back on track now. And I just want to reiterate, so if you want to learn more and get more engaged in our Geocortex roadmap, definitely recommend checking out our support center. That's for our Geocortex Essentials and Geocortex Analytics products. And then if you're interested in workflow reporting, Geocortex Web and mobile, you'll want to navigate to our Geocortex community. And that's where you can contribute ideas and also just engage with our support team and other staff as well to learn more about what's on the roadmap. We also have a live online documentation center where you can learn more. You can take, there's some tutorials available as well, and installation techniques if you want to install the technology on premise. And just in general, a great place to learn what's new with the products. And then one thing I really want to drive some folks to is our Geocortex tech tips. So these are available on our YouTube channel, and they're 2 to 10-minute videos where myself and other developers within our organization will record just, how do you build a workflow that works offline, or, edit some data, something kind of quick and easy for someone to digest. And it's a little bit easier to watch someone, walk through a process than reading through some documentation. So definitely check that out. It's on our YouTube channel. They're called Geocortex Tech Tips if you want to learn more about some of the new and exciting capabilities with our technology. Yeah, so with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Vince, and I'm going to take a look at the some of the questions that are coming in.
Great, thanks, Patrick. So just as we kind of finish up the presentation, I'd really like to reflect again on the idea of a next generation user experience. So this experience is defined by some of these words that you see here: beautiful, fast, flexible, configurable, offline, future-proofed, and perhaps one more word I don't have here, which is wow. So if this is the experience that you want your users to have, we and our valued partner Gistec can help. So please contact Gistec if you want to further explore how to make these experiences real for your end users. With that, I will mention that we do have another webinar next week. We'll be talking about our access control and analytics products, which are really designed to help administrators understand and secure their GIS environment. And let's go ahead and look at some of these questions, which are some very good questions. Thank you.
All right, yeah, so I see one here about what are the enhancements in the security model? Is Geocortex user required to be registered in ArcGIS level 1 or level 2 user? Yeah, so as you can see, we're very tightly integrated with the ArcGIS platform with our new technology. In terms of the designers, you will require a level 2 identity or a creator user to log into the designer. This could be an ArcGIS Online user or an ArcGIS portal user, and these can be federated with your underlying ADFS provider, which ArcGIS Enterprise and I believe ArcGIS Online supports. And the reason why you have to be a level 2 user to create the workflows and the reports or create the web applications is that they're getting stored as items back inside of your portal. As an end user, you can share those items with everyone, so the public, so anyone can access those applications without being a user. But if you had a secured application, they are going to be prompted to log in with their underlying ArcGIS Enterprise or portal identity or ArcGIS Online identity, which again can be federated with your Active Directory if required. We've got some questions about how many file formats does it support. I imagine this is for maybe Geocortex Web. I'm not entirely too sure what that's referring to. If you can import data into it. So Geocortex Web doesn't yet have feature parity with the HTML5 viewer. We are, again, rapidly adding new functionality to it, but I don't believe there's yet an upload data tool. So that is something that we have on the roadmap, but it hasn't yet been implemented.
Now, could you do that through a workflow, Patrick?
You could, yes, you could likely do that through a workflow, though, if required, yes. Can we use Geocortex Go with Geocortex Essentials? So unfortunately, no. The only way to use Geocortex Go is with Geocortex Mobile. So the best approach would be to create a web map with some of your Geocortex Essentials data sets, and then add that to Geocortex Mobile, and then create some workflows that you might want to add to that. When you create an application using web, can it be directly loaded to mobile and make required changes to it? So Geocortex web applications, they can be, an end user can launch a Geocortex web application on their mobile device. We have templates for configuring portrait and landscape layouts, but they can't be loaded offline. So if you have requirements where your field workers need to take the data offline, then they're going to have to use Geocortex Mobile to do it. What's nice is both of them reference web maps, so they could reference the same underlying web map, but you can kind of adjust the user experience in mobile and make it more purposed for field editing in an offline environment. All the sample workflows for new 5 series are online based. Kindly make them available as zip file so we can download them easily and host or test them in our on-premise. Sure, yeah, we that's I can pass it along to our support community to see if that's possible. You should still be able to access them and export them as JSON files, but definitely, yeah, having a package that we could share would be great, and that's some feedback I can pass to the community. Is it necessary to have Portal for ArcGIS to use Geocortex Essentials? So no. Geocortex Essentials is kind of our application that uses the Geocortex viewer for HTML5 that's based on the 3.x JavaScript API, which most of you are currently using. That does not require Portal for ArcGIS or ArcGIS Online. You can use that with your ADFS providers, or but it does require, ArcGIS server and underlying map data. However, Geocortex Web, which is kind of the next generation of that, does require you to use either a ArcGIS Enterprise or an ArcGIS Online identity when designing the application. As mentioned, you can share that that item with everyone, so your end users don't need to log in with an identity, but that is the modern pattern that we have really tightly integrated our technology into Esri. We do have plans where we're still continuing to add new capabilities into Geocortex Essentials and the HTML5 viewer, not as rapidly as we used to do in the past, but we are maintaining it. We're adding bug fixes and new features through it. I think you can probably expect one to two releases a year for Geocortex Essentials, where Geocortex Web and Mobile are going to have more rapid releases every 2 to 3 months. But definitely, it's not going it's not going anywhere. Where we're continuing to maintain it for a very, very long time. It's going to take a while for customers to start leveraging the new technology. And really, we've just built Geocortex Web to provide our customers with a solution if they do want to start leveraging those new 4.x JavaScript capabilities. So there's no immediate need for you to start migrating your applications, but it's there if you want to start leveraging some of these new cool interfaces and creating these custom user experiences. We have many requests to generate heat maps from data XY. So I think you can add heat maps to web maps in ArcGIS Online. So you can reference that web map from Geocortex Web. So you might be able to accomplish that. Similarly, I think you can also reference web maps in Geocortex Essentials. So that might be a way for you to accomplish that. We did just have a new release for Geocortex Essentials 4.13. I think that was early April. That included some new capabilities to our base map or our third-party maps connector tool. So you can now pull in web scenes into Geocortex Essentials. You can connect it to Apple Maps, Mapillary, and we've also built more integration for referencing web maps and then also exporting your Essentials site as a web map so it can be more easily implemented in Geocortex Web. And again, there's other new capabilities that we've got planned on the roadmap. I'm not too sure if I understand the question. Is all the access given when we are using ArcGIS Online? You should have the same number of capabilities if you're using ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. As mentioned, there's also 2 different types of deployments. You can either install Geocortex Web and Mobile on your own web server or on-premise, or you can use our SaaS infrastructure for accessing the designers without having to install anything, which is a really nice approach for some folks.
There was another question that was in the chat, and that was whether routing needed a network license.
Yeah, so the routing I showed in Geocortex Mobile, that was just using Geocortex or Google Maps, and I could have shown Waze, and I showed Bing Maps as well. That's just doing using their API. There's no license required to do it. We're just passing parameters from Geocortex Web to those applications. Now, if you wanted to connect that with like Navigator for ArcGIS, I believe that is a premium app that Esri offers, so that would likely require a license. And then if you wanted to, through a workflow, call a routing service, then you would likely, if you're using Esri's routing service, that would probably consume credits. But that would be another approach, unless if you have your own networking topology data set.
Okay. Another question was, can we create work orders on the desktop version of Geocortex? The simple answer is yes. I mean, if you're using, whether you're using Geocortex Essentials or Geocortex Web, you can use Geocortex workflow technology to either write, to features directly and edit them, or we can do integrations with, other third-party providers like asset management systems. We do have examples of that actually online in our demo center, where you can interface with another system and do that. Let's see. Another question was, do we have a direct export to PDF format using desktop Geocortex? The answer is we typically do that through Geocortex reports.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd create a report, and then the output for that report would be a PDF. We didn't demonstrate Geocortex reporting today, but it's a totally similar pattern. You have the same type of interface that Patrick showed for both Geocortex Web and Geocortex Mobile. It's a browser-based designer. It's very easy to use, as Patrick showed. It's got this drag and drop. And again, the idea being you don't need to be a coder to design these reports. So I would encourage you to look into that.
And the same goes for the printing as well.
Yeah, exactly. Some more maybe difficult questions. Does GE support reading data from utility network extension?
Yeah, so Geocortex Essentials, as well as I think Geocortex Web, should be able to work with the new utility ArcGIS utility network that's been recently made available. We've got lots of partners and customers that work directly in the utility space. Schneider Electric, for example, is one of our resellers who specifically work with utility customers, and we've got a variety of other partners in Europe that require the ability to connect to and integrate with the ArcGIS utility network. So yes, you should be able to.
And I'll just also mention here, if you recall the early slide that I presented on the Vertigis company that we're now a part of, several of the companies that are part of Vertigis are completely focused around utilities. And so one of the things that you'll see in the future is a next generation application that supports utility business processes in GIS and uses utility network. So I can't give you a timeline on that. I would just say stay tuned. Certainly if you'd like to write Gistec and ask about that, we can answer those questions. Just moving on to.
Yes, and these are our emails. So if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us as well.
And again, one of the questions was around security and users, and that's a great lead into next week's webinar, where we're going to be talking about Geocortex Analytics and Geocortex Access Control. Geocortex Access Control was just released and really allows you to create fine-grained permissions for your entire ArcGIS organization. So please tune in for that. We'd like to thank you for joining us, and we'd like to thank Gistec for hosting this. We wish you a lovely evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.